Hello everyone! Welcome back to the channel. I am the Desert Claw, and today I want to explore the mysteries of Fire Force, and the topic, Doppelgangers. What are they, and what do they want? And why have they suddenly been so relevant, say the last 60 chapters or so? Let's try to do a deep dive and do some fun speculation. But first, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing is free and really helps the growth of the channel. Last but not least, if you are an anime-only viewer, there will be spoilers, and for you manga readers, make sure you are caught up. If not, go get caught up and come back to this video, okay? Here we go. Every person in the world of Fire Force has a doppelganger that resides in a dola, and each doppelganger takes on the characteristics of the perception of the individual in the real world, creating a mirror image of them, but traits based on how others see you, not how you may be on the inside. I said in another video that this seems to act as a reverse shadow, being more of a reflection of the mask, aka the persona a person puts on in public, and that persona basically becomes your doppelganger on the other side, and not the shadow that people often hide. But of course, it's open to interpretation. We first learn about doppelgangers when Conro gives his account with his fight with a demon, the one that caused him to go into Tephrosis after defeating him. He accounts that the demon Infernal acted like him and mirrored his moves. When telling this information to the 8th and Hibana, she assumes that the doppelganger was there to kill Conro and take his place. Ultimately, he won at the cost of his body and his ability to continue to use his ignition skill without major consequences. The fact that this happened in Askasa is pertinent, but more on that later. The next time we see actual doppelgangers in the world is when Hawameya summons Leonard Burns' doppelganger into reality to not only take him out, but pull him into the world of Adola. This doppelganger resembles the same type that Conro had fought, infernal armor and body type design, but the same body shape and build as Burns, and looked like a lion, as Burns was often called a lion by his peers. The next major example of this we get is a bit more disguised than the other two and happens with Shinra. We don't actually see Shinra's doppel manifest in the real world, but instead, his doppel takes over his body after Shinra went back in time with Inca. Devil Shinra went so far out of his way to make sure he looked like the perception that others had about Shinra. The only person who noticed this was Arthur. In school, people called Shinra the matricidal devil and often made up rumors that his body was covered in tattoos. As soon as the doppel took control, he immediately had to make that perception a reality, going as far to have Vulcan put tattoos on his body and dyeing his hair white. Not to mention, striking Sister Iris, as she too could see that he was not the real Shinra. But another interesting fact about Shinra's doppel, he didn't strike Iris just because she was clever and figured him out. He immediately knew that she was a doppelganger for Amaterasu and asked why she was here. This slowly led to Iris's own revelation that she was some kind of imitation, on top of unlocking her ignition ability as the pillars continued to rise and Adola got closer to the real world. Iris and Amaterasu are also mirror images. Amaterasu, the person, is angry and cruel, most likely due to eternally burning at the center of the Empire. But Iris is kind and pure. Reflecting the duality of fire, fire can destroy, or it can be warm and protect in a harsh world. The world views Amaterasu as a beacon of hope, so it's obvious as to why Iris is the way she is. But the manga has yet to explain how she was able to manifest as a full-blown, human-looking doppelganger even before the pillars begun to rise. The next two are even more curious. Turns out, even doppels of the dead can come into the real world. The first example we get is Benimaru Sensei Hibachi Shinman. At first glance, this doppel looks like the other two we have seen. Infernal body, but slight features of the original. But as the fight goes on, Hibachi starts to look even more human, and also has memories and speaks out loud just like a human would. Benimaru ultimately prevails. But it's interesting about how this happens. Even though the Doppel is defeated, what's to stop another from showing up again in Adola? Hibachi has been dead for some time, but it's obvious his memory still exists in the eyes of the people of Askasa and Benimaru. Without knowing the rules of how this works, in my mind, it's entirely possible that Hibachi's Doppel just respawns on the other side as long as people remember him. So who knows what's going on with that? The next big one, and the one we know the least about, is Raffles 1. Due to being the founder of the Holy Soul religion, the guy basically has godlike power due to his massive perception in the real world and starts nuking the countryside from above. Out the gate, he is the most human-looking Doppel, and likely due to the final pillar arising out of the ocean. The theory is, the closer the world gets to Adola, the more and more Doppels will look just like their human counterparts. I don't have enough info on Raffles' Doppel to really make any speculations beyond that the guy is absurdly powerful, but let's use that to segue into power zones and spontaneous human combustion. First, it's theorized by Hibana that spontaneous human combustion happens when a doppelganger tries to encroach on its real-life version, either causing the user to become a Gen 1 Infernal or a Gen 2 or 3 Fire user. I don't think this means that combined with the user, else we wouldn't see Doppels of Burns and Konro, who are in fact Ignition users, trying to kill their real-world selves. I think this just means the veil of Adola in the real world was weak enough for a Doppel to touch or look directly at the subject. Depending on the user's will, the user either combusts or gains power. Adola insects obviously make the link to Adola easier and likely weakens the veil between the worlds, making it simple for the Doppel to encroach. This is the same with the pillars as well. More spontaneous human combustion started happening once the pillars started to rise and the veil got weaker and weaker, and we got things like the grinning moon. Now that the final pillar is here, the most powerful perceptive Doppel is able to come in and basically start nuking things. Before the pillars started to rise though, we mainly saw things like Doppels and demons appear in areas known as power zones. I take this to be that the area is just stronger and closer to Adola, and it's easier for the denizens of the dimension to encroach. Now, let's do a fun experiment. If Doppels exist because of the perception of people in the real world, what about things like mythological and fictional characters? Some myths are so gargantuan that they do become real in the eyes of those who believe in them. Who is to say a version of that myth or character does not also exist in Adola, the realm of ideas? We kind of see this manifest with Shinra. Sho explains that Shinra's virgin birth was due to the will of the people of the old world, that their belief in a virgin savior, Christ, was so strong that Shinra and Sho were made manifest because of it. What if this works for other characters too? What if the myth of a certain Night King caused a real-world counterpart to be born? What about a prophet? Or a witch and her cat? Unpowered superheroes who refuse to give up no matter what? Not to mention the god of destruction. You get what I'm getting at here? Since the world of Fire Force is basically madness incarnate, who is to say that powerful fictional characters don't also exist in Adola and willed their own Doppel to be born in the real world? Just food for thought and fun to think about. I kinda got this idea by the characters Dragon and Fairy. One of my theories is that both of these characters are not human and come from Adola, but took on human characteristics. Like a whole society of people based off of stories, and maybe we'll see that, as it feels like Fire Force is ending soon, as Akobu has stated. But this could also be a huge fake out to another larger final arc that exists from within Adola. Anyways, this is probably my longest video I've ever made, and I would love your feedback in the comments down below. What do you think about some of my crazy theories? Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. Once again, I am the Desert Claw. Have a good one.